It is not every day that you see me learn something from a prelim paper, but I actually learned something from doing this. Really, that one question was enough. Find out why in today's episode of PPR. Alright, welcome back to another video. It's been a while. This is Yao from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest, and I know a lot of my JC2s are waiting for me to review a H2 chemistry paper, and therefore this paper is from 2023 Millennia Institute H2 Chemistry Paper 2. Now before I go into the details, these are the questions that I feel are insightful and worth your time to try. And if you'd like to download this paper, you are invited to join my Telegram channel where I've uploaded a short summary along with a download link available on my blog. Have a go at it, let me know how you did. Firstly, most students wouldn't consider looking at prelim papers from this school because of the nature of their course. And most of you would simply flock to one of the top institutes to just try their prelim papers and ignore everything else. But this paper, believe me, it is comparable to the 2023 RI H2 Chemistry Paper 2 that I reviewed last year. And indeed, this paper is special. Why? Let's find out via my 3 matrices. Number 1, relevance. Number 2, insightfulness. Number 3, difficulty. Before I give an overall score and recommend to you the type of students who should try this paper. And if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam condition, what would be a fair expectation of her from me in order for her to score an A in her actual A levels? Firstly, relevance. There is something about this paper that makes me feel like it is very similar to the A levels. It gives me the feeling that the A levels could set a paper that is very similar to this. Now if I were to compare this paper to the RI paper, where I spoke so highly about the paper, you see similar elements between that paper and this paper, where there is a good balance of technical questions and application questions. In this paper, there are some storytelling as well, but the storytelling is more towards the technical side, not so much about applying to real life. And that's what you see in a lot of the A-level papers nowadays, taking apart information in terms of understanding a technique that is outside of your syllabus. And this paper has achieved that. There is one question that is a bit of application in terms of the battery, and there is another question which I enjoy very much, which is teaching even me how to understand enantiomers at a much deeper level. And like I said many times, I'm looking for an anchor question in most prelim papers, and this paper may not have a very clear-cut long story, but this is another form of anchor question that I like to see, or I would like my students to practice on. However, it is not perfect because ultimately I would still like a bit more storytelling in terms of information application to real life rather than just the technicals. And hence, the relevance of this paper will be given a very solid 9 out of 10. Next, insightfulness. In this paper, you are going to learn quite a lot. It's not so much about reaching for knowledge outside of your syllabus, which is still in this paper, but more of taking elements from every single chapter and putting them in one question. Like most prelim papers, there is hardly ever a question that is just based simply on one topic. This paper has questions that will require skills from other topics put together to answer one coherent question. And this happens quite frequently throughout the paper. And what I really enjoy about this paper is that the application question, the anchor question, may look complicated on the surface, but they guided you through towards the technique by asking you questions from your J1 topics at a very basic foundation level. Now, a lot of the questions here, I have seen them before, not for J2s, but in J1, where the topics are rather basic, and in order to expand your horizon, your teachers may have asked you this question as a discussion in class only, similar to what I've done with my student. I extend because the chapter really is not that difficult, and therefore we make it more interesting by sharing with you some interesting examples and how it's being applied to real life. And maybe I'm not very good at expressing this. You look at the paper, you will know what I mean. The insights you're going to gain from this paper is going to be amazing because you're taking very simple concepts that you learn in J1 and seeing how this leads to something more complicated. And that's the beauty of this paper. Now, is it perfect? No. Again, I would have wished for a long story of real life application of chemistry to environmental chemistry, batteries, whatever. But this is just being difficult. This is just nitpicking. And hence, the insightfulness of this paper, easily 9.5 out of 10. Next, difficulty. A lot of the small insights here are based on smaller topics, on very basic understanding of some of the chapters that's been taught to you in JC1 or maybe even JC2. On the surface, the paper may look daunting to you. It may look like they're asking you unusual questions, and that's what you'll get in your A-levels as well. You look at the past few years of papers, there are always questions that ask you to suggest a logical reasoning where you may have completely no clue what it's talking about. You have to make an intelligent guess, and this is the kind of skills you want to develop as a student, and that's the kind of skills I'm developing in my students as well. You must be able to come up with a logical explanation even though it may not be in your textbook given the limited information that you have. And this is a skill seen rather frequently in this paper. Similar to the RA paper, the application questions and the technical questions seem to alternate throughout the paper, and hence there is a very good balance. Yes, they ask unusual questions, but you will be able to learn on the spot, or at least my students can. If you were to do this paper for your A-levels, you can walk out the hall being confident that even if the bell curve exists, you can be sure that even with 70%, you are probably going to graduate with an A in your H2 chemistry. Because if you are a student who just studies very hard, who have no skills in terms of deciphering information, in terms of learning on the spot when presented with something unusual, this paper would easily push you down into a B or a C grade. But if you are a student who has been probed and developed by me, who has been asking you all these questions to think about whenever you go through a topic, this paper would just feel like lunch to you, and in fact this will make you even more confident that an A is coming your way. And hence, the difficulty of this paper is going to appear slightly unfair to most of you, but ultimately, still a very fair paper. 6 out of 10. Overall, good paper. Amazing paper. I absolutely love it. I like the feel of the paper. It gives me a sense of familiarity yet different, which is what you would expect in your A-levels as well. You're no longer expecting technical questions throughout, you're expecting to answer some question where you have absolutely no clue about and you have to learn on the spot. Flow of this paper is great, the insights it offers is amazing. It shows you that insights does not have to come from the most difficult questions, it does not have to come from the most difficult of concepts. This paper perfectly illustrates that. And yes, I repeated this many times, the only flaw is, I wish there was a better story. I wish there was a story for students to apply to environmental chemistry, pharmaceutical chemistry, whatever, but there isn't. Again, nitpicking. Overall, easily 9 out of 10. And if I had a student who had to sit for this paper under exam condition, a fair expectation of her from me would be 75% in order for her to score an A in her actual A-levels. Finally, who would I recommend this paper to? I recommend this paper to every student out there, because of all the reasons I said. In fact, the only thing you need to take note of is you should reserve this paper as one of your last few papers where you have done all your due diligence, where you have done enough revision such that you feel you're ready to take on actual A-levels. Because this paper, similar to the RA paper, should feel very much like an A-level paper. You should use this as a gauge for your actual A-levels. You should really mark this paper very carefully and look at the marks as deeply as you can. And hence, if you are a student who has done all your revision, you are a student who is confident of chemistry, who is looking to find out just how much you can score in your actual A-levels, this would be the paper that I reserve towards the end, and hence, this paper could be for you. Alright, so we have come to the end of this Prelim Paper review of 2023 Millennia Institute H2 Chemistry Paper 2. Now, if you like what I'm doing, follow me on TikTok, like my video, comment, and share it with your friends. I'm sure this will help them, because ultimately, I'm on my way to 10,000 followers. And if you are a student who is looking to try this paper, you are invited to join my Telegram channel where I have attached a short summary along with a download link on my blog. Have a go at it, let me know how you did. Nothing else. This is Yao Le from Vantage Tutor, a class above the rest. Take care.